So the next one on my list is Derrick Henry. Whereabouts do you have him ranked?
Yikes. I have him RB10 in PPR league. And hey, I was too low on him last year. But I get all the arguments. You can even argue he's a bell cow. He ranked second in snaps per game last season. He ranked third in total snaps the year before. But I'm more inclined to believe he's just not seeing enough target volume to be a bell cow. He's never reached even 20 receptions in a single season. He's just like an all-time outlier. And of course, and maybe the best pure runner in football history since Barry Sanders. You have to account for that and his talent. But to me, it really comes down to game script. So this is the single most game script sensitive player in fantasy by a landslide. And Vegas expects Tennessee to decline more than any other team this year. Their win total is going to drop from about 71% to about 53%. Again, he averages 11 more fantasy points per game in wins than losses. 22.8, that's RB1 numbers and wins. 11.8 in losses, that's RB29 numbers. Oof. And so with Tennessee expected to win only 53% of their games, that means based on these win-loss splits, we should expect Henry to average only 17.6 fantasy points per game in PPR. That's RB9 numbers. And so, again, I have him RB10. So that's really just hinging on Vegas being right. But hey, Vegas has been wrong about Tennessee for a number of years now. Beyond that, he has the second worst schedule change. And then more importantly, I think without A.J. Brown, the offense is just going to be significantly worse. It's going to be less efficient. There's going to be fewer sustained drives. There's going to be fewer red zone trips and thus fewer fantasy points to Henry. Beyond that, I mean, he's 28, 955 touches over the last 3 seasons. So I do think he carries some injury age risk as well.
All very fair points. Those splits are far more dramatic than even I would have realized. So I don't have much argument for that either, because I do expect the Titans to be significantly worse without A.J. Brown. Maybe Traylon Burks. I mean, he's making a ton of highlight plays. Maybe he can step in and be very, very light A.J. Brown.
I don't think Burks is pro ready. That's one of my hot takes this year. Is I do not think he's pro ready.
I'm off Burks too. I haven't been getting Burks either. I guess the only call for upside might be before he got hurt, he did have 18 catches. That's not astronomical, but he did only play half the season.
That's right. That's right.
That would have paced him on pace for about 36 catches, which with a guy like Henry just completely changes the ceiling. So maybe with Brown leaving, maybe a little bit of the target share opens up and he does approach that 35, dare I say 40 receptions. It's not like he's bad as a receiver necessarily, at least. I mean, sure, again, compared to some of these other names, he's bad, but he can. There's so many times you see him get a screen and just kind of rip through the entire defense, because when he gets ahead of steam, there's nobody better. You see a guy that finishes 9th in rushing yards, 7th in TDs, playing only half the year. It's just such a generational talent. The leader in fantasy points per game, 2 more than Jonathan Taylor had last year, was probably going to score 400 points. It's just so much upside for me to pass up. I do get the risk of 28. I saw there's a big tweet going around that there hasn't been a running back over 27 in the top 5 for 5 straight years. I also don't think there's been running backs with this type of talent that we haven't been really targeting running backs over 27 until this year. So it's going to be really intriguing to see how that all shakes out, if age is going to be that much of a factor, because you got Cook, you got Henry, Kamara, Jones. If none of those guys are in the top 5, I would be stunned. But yeah, it's those splits, and especially with me thinking that Tennessee's going to be worse than they were last year, that does make me a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, so you made a great point when you brought up his reception pace last season prior to injury. I think that's a really fair counter. The only reason I didn't bring it up in my article is Paul Kaharski has been hyping Dontrell Hilliard up as the team's third down back. I mean, I don't know how much to trust some of these beats, but I just figured that sort of offsets it. So I just didn't mention either. But yeah, I mean, I've quibbled about his lack of targets for years. And in spite of that, 26.5 fantasy points per game in his final 4 games of 2018, 19.6 in 2019, 20.8 in 2020, 26.6 prior to injury last year. These are either top 5 numbers in any given season or top 12 numbers all time. So I mean, he's just an outlier.
Yeah, I think
again, I could get murdered by some of these. Hey, just bet on talent, but
yeah,
that game script stat really just swayed me.
That's scary. No, it is absolutely terrifying. It's certainly a good reason to be negative on him. I guess I'm betting on the horse, but yeah, maybe I have to reconsider it. Part of it too is like I don't know. That's like I know the role with Harris is going to be good. Mixon, I know, isn't going to get a ton of third down work, and then like the other guys just feel kind of round two with some warts to me. So I didn't have anybody I could comfortably bump ahead of him. Who do you have, at 5 above Henry right now? You certainly have a few others above Henry, but who's your 5th?
You have him outside of the top 10. We'll get to him.
Let's
move on to your next one. Yeah.
What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.